People that have said they would be gone. Do you want to start with a roll call?
Krieger? Wendover?
Here.
Snyder?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
King? Is absent. Dubravik is absent. And Taylor?
Here.
You do have a quorum.
As far as approval of the agenda, we need to make one change. We're not going to do the historic district ordinance review tonight. We decided to wait on that because the city attorney couldn't be here. And it's going to take a vote, and we were concerned about there being a quorum. So because of that, we're going to refer that to our May meeting. So I just need an approval of the agenda then with that change.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And now we have public comments, and are there public comments at this time that need to be addressed, that are not going to be addressed on the agenda by our other agenda item? Okay. So we'll move on and approve the March 11th, 2013 meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? And is there a motion to approve them?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second? Whenever.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Could I make a comment on that, on
Yeah.
those minutes, though? I think it's possible in looking at the minutes to misconstrue information on the Cobbs and Mitchell item on the agenda. And I thought it would be good to just to say for the record that we were all trying to put out our recollections in it, that indeed it may not necessarily be correct.
So noted. Okay. We have no public hearings tonight, and as far as I know, do we have any other new business? Okay. So the only thing on the agenda is we're going to, we have Al Meshkin here to speak on behalf of Michelet Corporation on the Cobbs and Mitchell building, and he's come here per request from us just to get an update on how it's progressing. And because I believe I may have a conflict of interest as the HDC chair in this position because of my affiliation through my husband, I'm going to step away from the discussion in this capacity, and I'll actually kind of go out into the audience, that way there's no confusion on that. And I'm going to ask if Ed will take over the discussion, because he's the one that has led this discussion at this point, and so he's going to go ahead and lead this at this point. I'll come back up here to finish the rest of the meeting now. So,
Okay.
I'll be back.
Good evening. Welcome. You've been here before, but we thought, the commission thought that it would be advisable to sort of get an update from you folks, see how things are going, where we stand on a number of the matters, a number of the questions that have come up are relative to the timetable of grants and so forth, and we wondered if you could let us know how things are going, where things stand, and if there's anything that the city, through the Historic District Commission, can do to help.
Well, in a nutshell, I'd say things are going.
Would you stand at the microphone now and properly introduce yourself and all that sort of thing for the record?
All right.
Thank you.
Al Meshkin, President, Michelet Corporation, and owner of the Cobbs and Mitchell building. Very slow. The economy still is not recovered. Really can't say much else than that. If you have ways of offering assistance, find me some tenants. That's what really the holdup is. You can't borrow money from a bank without tenants. Yeah. It'd be easier if you could tell me some of your questions, because I'm kind of walking in here cold. Nobody gave me any prep to what kind of questions you had.
The commission noted, I guess, that the timetable was approaching in terms of some of the grants from the original time when you took over from the city.
What grants?
And your purchase.
Tax credits you're talking about?
Tax credits, brownfield, those sorts of things.
Yes.
And we wondered if you had any idea in terms of your plans, any existing plans, the building's for sale, for lease?
It's available.
It's available.
It's available.
What happens to the credits? What happens with the timetable?
Well, the credits are several different time schedules in there, or at least two that I can think of. I believe, going from memory, I believe the brownfield credits, an opportunity to use those expires at the end of this year. I believe. I'm going strictly from memory here. I believe the state historic tax credits, opportunity to use those expires the end of 2014. I'm not sure if there is a expiration date on the federal tax credits. I don't believe there is. So that's basically it. The clock is ticking. Once again, without tenants to occupy the building, I can't invest into it.
I guess the concern of the commission, and please speak up, fellow commissioners, the concern of the commission was that with the possible expiration of these and the economic conditions, we understand, that this could make the building less viable and perhaps put it on the endangered list, which is a concern to this body, obviously with our charge.
I tend to agree that without having credits available to help in the redevelopment of the building, it does make it a lot more difficult. It is difficult with credits. Without it would be very difficult.
Have you obtained any legal assistance or opinion on these grants?
No. They're not grants, they're tax credits we're talking about.
Well, credits.
There's no grants involved at this point.
Well, there was a Cool Cities grant, was there not?
That money has been spent.
That money has been spent.
Oh, yes.
And that is accounted through the city or?
Yes. Yeah. Through, who's your finance director?
Owen Roberts.
Owen, yeah, Owen Swoller, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We did considerable work in the building with that. That entire front step has been taken apart and reconstructed. The building has a new roof on it, a new membrane roof on it. All the existing fluorescent lighting in the building has been removed and disposed of properly. New compact fluorescent fixtures have been installed in the building. Architectural plans have been developed on the building. And that's most of it. There may be a few other little items in there. But yeah, that has all been expended on the building already.
That came through the grant?
Yes, yeah.
And all that is filed with the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Probably, and there was some discussion, this commission may ask the city attorney to update from the city's perspective where those tax credits and things are.
That's your business, I guess. You know, it's not the city's building, though. It is my building.
Right.
The city does not have an interest in the building. Legal interest, ownership.
You say the building is for sale or lease?
Yes.
Are you doing anything particularly to market it, or?
Well, I've had it listed with the local realtor for some time. It's not listed currently.
Okay.
I'm looking at other opportunities to market
And you
it.
had some events in the building.
Oh, yes, there's been at least 2 that I can remember in the building. There has been some interest in the building. We had one potential tenant that just couldn't quite make it work. I had high hopes for him, a local insurance agent. That didn't quite work out. That was the only real viable interest that I've seen from him.
Is part of the problem a liquor license? Or does
No,
that-
we could get we could get a liquor license easily.
Okay.
I mean, it qualifies
If a
for liquor license.
restaurant wanted to go in.
Certainly, yeah.
If I could make just
Oh, sure.
one
Okay.
comment.
Sure.
Patty Meyer and I work as a consultant for Mission Lake on the historic preservation aspect of the building. I'm sure you're all aware of this, but just to reiterate what I see as the biggest problem is it's a cart before the horse thing. You can't get tenants because the building's not fixed up. It's not ADA compliant and that kind of thing. You can't fix it up because you don't have tenants. That's really where we're at. We go to the bank and say, but if we could just put, this into an elevator or ramps or whatever, that kind of thing, well, they go show us tenants. Well, the tenants, especially like a restaurant, we would need to put a full working commercial kitchen in. You're talking at least $50,000 just to put that in. Then I think we would really have interest in a restaurant going in. But until you put that kitchen in, a restaurant sort of looks at it like, it's a stretch to see that far down. So anyway, that's my
Yep.
2 cents of where I think it's at. Not for lack of wanting to do the project, because I think we're both really eager. And I think went on, and this is not in writing anywhere, but went on the assumption that the banks were eager, and the consortium that Cadillac has of the banks were very eager to loan to get this building going. And we did not find that that was the case.
But when we started this process was when the economy was just starting its downturn, and we're hoping that we're on the uptick now.
Have you checked with banks recently?
No, not recently.
Okay.
Not recently. It would take considerable investment to get usability. We have the ADA issues. That's not barrier-free, so an elevator is the way to work on it. Could you do something with ramps? Possibly, but gosh, that's so ugly. So that's, not favorable. Restaurant would be lovely in the lower, that we call the garden level. It'd be great down there. Keep in mind, though, that when you put a restaurant in there, now you're putting a new use in there that's never been in the building. So any kind of construction codes are going to be current construction codes. So then we're talking about, sprinkling in the kitchen, fire stopping where we have to, the ADA accessibility, the restrooms. It's not simply putting a restaurant down there. So we change the use, which we would like to do. It's going to take a considerable investment to do that.
As you looked at discussing this with the one client that you mentioned, did you establish any sort of estimates or anything you can share with us or can share publicly about what some of these costs might be? Even ballparks,
The reason he couldn't do it is because his home office was not in favor. It wasn't because of not the financial ability to do that. The project, as I submitted it for tax credits, the grand project, if we could do everything we wanted to do there, a little better than $2 million. Could you do something less than that? To get it, breathe some life into it, to put a restaurant in, those kind of things? Probably $250,000 to $500,000. So it varies. I mean, are we talking about a heating system? Well, it's got a good heating system. Don't really need to replace that, unless you want air conditioning. Then it's a different story. The windows are all right, but they really should be replaced. The insulation in the attic could use some work. Elevator is key. Elevator is going to be a considerable investment. because you have more than just the elevator itself. You have the shaft and how that works into the structure of the building, depending on how many floors. If you go up to the third floor, to the attic level, it's going to require a little bump out on the roof line. Stop short of that, it won't. So there's a lot of factors that come into place.
I'm sorry, you were discussing the heating. There is no air conditioning in the building, is my understanding. Is that correct?
No. No, I have a steam boiler. Going right now, I just went past it.
Do you have any plans to, and I don't know if it's the city's problem or your problem, but where the big cement block got knocked over last year?
Yeah, I filed a police report on that. Nobody seems to have any idea what happened there, which kind of surprises me.
Something had to hit it, bigger than that.
Yeah, it's like that. I'm like, how do you do that? But this spring we'll get somebody out there with somebody heavy equipment and try to straighten it out, and then we'll try to reset it. But yeah, that's
I'm just curious about that.
I know. I don't know how that could have had an impact to do that much movement, and nobody knowing about it, but.
In your discussions with prospective buyers or tenants, is it your understanding that your tax credits and the historic preservation covenant and so forth are transferable?
Definitely.
Yes?
Yes, yeah, the covenant runs with the property. The covenant's right in the deed. And tax credits are transferable also, providing you're the owner that does the work.
What does it do to the timeline on them?
Well, the timeline with tax credits is, Governor Snyder wiped out historic tax credits. So the only reason there's any timeline left on that is they're going to that drop dead date of, I believe, is December 31st of 2014 to use your state historic tax credits, or else they will no longer be available. Same with the brownfield. The brownfield system is still in place, but there's a whole new method of doing it, but that has a drop dead date to use it also, which all occurred, those cancellation of those tax credits occurred last year, I believe, 2012 sometime. So that's statewide. That's nothing particular to this building.
Is there anything else that the city can do to help find a new use for this building?
Best I could say would be to direct any, short of funding me, which I don't think is terribly likely to happen. Short of funding me, I would suggest whatever you can do to get awareness in the building and to pass any potential tenants or purchaser my way. And I say purchaser because I want the building to get new life in it too. And perhaps there's somebody out there that would rather do it as an owner as opposed to being a tenant.
Can you tell us
I'm willing to discuss any of the options.
Can you tell us what it's listed for?
It's not listed currently.
I mean, what are you asking?
I'm not sure at this point.
What about a lease? Do you have something in mind for that, or have you advertised a lease price, or?
We've had lease prices in the past, which I'm sure you could look for. I'm not sure what they are off the top of my head. I'm willing to discuss any possibility with anyone.
Okay.
We're just trying to save it. We would like to do anything we could do to help.
Thank you.
You understand the charge of the Historic District Commission?
Generally, in historic district commissions, yes.
Yeah. Part of our charge is to alert the city council if we believe that there's a building which is in jeopardy.
Well, the building is there. It's, I think, being better cared for than it has previously. The heat is still on. I'm still paying the heating bill. I'm still paying the electric bill on it. Those are not easy bills to pay, especially this time of year. I'd like to find a good use to move into it, but it's going to take, I think, the economy coming back stronger. Hoping that this year is going to be that year. But I don't have any guarantees on that.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the commissioners? The fact that we do not have a quorum tonight means that we were not planning any action, but this probably is something that we would like to take up at a later date with the commission when our other commissioners are with us, and they are going to be reviewing the tape and the minutes of tonight.
What possible action could you take?
I'm sorry?
What possible action could you take?
What possible action? We could recommend that notifying the city that we believe that the building is at risk as an historical landmark, which could begin that project from the city.
Such as what? Well, once again, I own the building.
Right. Well, they may have some ideas about helping that we could take a look at.
Okay.
I think this city manager has expressed that he was willing to look at what the city might do to help
Okay.
find a new use for the building. He was unable to be here tonight, but
I always thought it would have been great for the city to have retained ownership of it and put it to some use as a city building. I just bogged my mind when the city didn't want to step up to the plate and do that.
I suggested that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
When-
city offices would be fabulous.
But if we can get this
Right.
conversation going again and get their,
Maybe your climate's changed in the city. When I first walked into this, 2009, I believe it was, the door was slammed pretty shut on that idea. Don't talk about the city using it. It's not going to happen.
okay.
But maybe things have changed. Maybe the attitude's changed in the city. That'd be nice.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming and explaining your situation. We certainly hope to be in touch and see what other information we can get.
and I'd like to say also thanks for driving up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
right.
know that it may seem silly to you, but we'd like to help.
I
And
appreciate that. I was hoping that was,
And I went to the gala a few years ago, and it was beautiful, and the building's beautiful, and thank you for what you've done up to this point.
I was just a little concerned, because I hear that when you first started your meeting, you talked about the minutes being misconstrued. I'm going, what do the minutes say? I've not seen them. This is, and I see them under old business, I'm going, well, okay. What's going on up to this point?
The minutes which were just approved, would you like a copy of them? There's a comment made in there, there was a discussion that, and this happened before I came to town, with your transfer of your ownership to your ownership. There was some question of whether there was a reverting clause to the city,
There is not.
so we understand. But that was discussed at the last meeting, and that, in the minutes, if you were to read that, you could possibly misconstrue that.
I see. Okay, good.
And that, we were just trying at that point, all of us, to put out our concerns and our questions is what we were doing. Not stating them as fact, but our concerns.
Very good.
Good, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
At this time, I would ask the chair to rejoin us.
Okay, thanks again. Okay, so we have public comments at the end. We've just got a few more things to go over. Tabled items, we have none, correct, Brian?
That's correct.
And no informational items at this time?
Nope. Oh, actually, I take that back. I did want to let everybody know that this will be my last HDC meeting. My wife and I are moving. to be closer to family. So Friday will be my last day with the city.
Yeah, we are really
We
sorry.
are sorry to hear that. Congratulations are in order, are they?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Well, good. Good luck.
The move that we
He said
want.
he's going to move into a historic building in Wisconsin in a local historic district.
Yep.
So he's going to learn what it's like to be on the other side.
Oh, really? Well, good for you, Brian.
Congratulations, and thank you for the great job you've done for us.
Thank you for the good
It's
work.
been wonderful.
Yes, you did a great job.
Okay, next we have commissioner comments. Well, I guess I should ask real quickly, Brian, have they decided who's going to represent the city at our HDC meetings in the future?
At least in the interim, it'll be Jerry.
Okay.
They have posted the position, and I believe applications are due April 19th.
Okay,
So by your June meeting, you may have a new community development analyst.
okay, great, thanks. Any other commissioner comments? Want to make it this time?
Nope.
Okay, we're open for public comments.
Name is Tom Taylor. I won't come up to the microphone.
I think you have to, Tom, because you have to speak into the microphone.
Okay, if you're going to send something back to the city council regarding the building, I know in the past there's been some talk about some grants or money available for elevators in the downtown area. That would be one suggestion I would say should go with your directive to the city, if there's any way to help with them putting an elevator in the property, if you want it, I mean. The second thing would be, let's take a look at the RJ Grants building downtown. I know the city did quite a bit of work on that building as far as improving it and spending money on it and recapturing some of the funds with the DDA. I think if you can somehow involve the DDA with some kind of grants or some kind of funding available, maybe to help them put, say, bathrooms on the main level, or the handicap ramps, or something along those lines. I know one of the things that you're probably going to have, if it is going to be handicap accessible, there's probably going to have to come to the city or your district for some architectural drawings on the ramps in order to put the ramps on. So that's something maybe you could work on already, and maybe you could lend the city architect to help do that if that's a cost item. So there's 3 items there in particular where I think you could help them financially. And it's like Patty said, and I would agree with this, it's a cart before the horse. You know, you almost got to spend the money before you're going to get somebody in. But if you can't get somebody in, then you can't spend the money. So it's like, I'm sure you can understand that concept. But in my 3 points of review would be, number 1, see what you do for an elevator. Number 2, see if you can involve the DDA to help with some kind of grant or funding for the bathrooms on the main floor, not the garden level, but the first floor. And do something along the lines with some kind of architect or some kind of prints, or maybe even some kind of grant involving the ramping or Disabilities Act to get somebody in the building. I think those 3 items in particular, from my perspective, would probably be the best things that could help.
I have a question. Is this building in the DDA technically?
I don't know if it is or not.
Yes, it is.
Is it? Okay. It is.
You know, I've been in there several times, but the only bathrooms are on the lower
The
level.
only bedrooms are in the garden level or the lower level. And Daniela and I were involved in the listing, and I've been probably involved in more so than Daniela was, but some of the people that did express some interest, there was a requirement basically that they have the bathrooms on the level where their offices were going to be. That they had clients in particular that could not go down to the lower level, go down the steps or use the steps. So that seemed to be something that was fairly important to a lot of people. That and the elevator.
Could those clients even get to the main, or that main level from the backside?
No, you can't. You have to go steps. You got to use steps. So that's what I'm saying. You've got to have some kind of ramping or something to get in and out of that building, whether it be on the front or back. But I would think if you could get the city architect or an architect to work with the developers, or some kind of grants or funding available for the American Disabilities Act to help do the ramping, I think you would put yourself ahead of the game as far as getting something done. And I know that from what I understand of your commission is that anything that changes the exterior of the building and the appearance of that building has to come before your board. Well, let's get this out of the way now. So if you want to do something to help, if you could work along those lines, I think that would be helpful. So those would be my 3 suggestions.
For the record, when we initially discussed this at this meeting, we talked about the fact that this body might, in fact, be involved in changes relative to an elevator and/or a ramp. And we are quite prepared to deal with that, but you're suggesting, I think, we take a more proactive role, perhaps.
Well, if you want to save the building and if you want to worry about the time constraints that are involved, I think that, Nan, do you have those notes about the dates? I think I've got accurate dates here for you, Al, as far as the... Oprah on the brownfield.
Is that?
When they expired.
Yeah.
Okay, the Oprah was the 12 years. That's not an issue. The brownfield tax credits, I think, were awarded in December of 2009, December 22nd of 2009. And it's got to be completed in 5 years, from what I understand. So we're talking about December 22nd of 2014. So for the brownfield tax credits, we still have a little bit more time. But the sooner that you get these issues out of the way that I've mentioned to you about those 3 particular things, I think we're ahead of the game at that point in time, and they're more likely to get a tenant. And then I think the state enhanced tax credits were awarded in August of 2010.
Could be.
And is that 5 years, Al? Patty? Do you know?
I really think that is...
With everything that's happened with those credits in the last little bit, I have to ask.
Okay.
before-
I think we're waiting for some response back from the state as far as what the state tells us, but that could be possibly put it into 2015. So we still got a little bit of time, but I think time is of the essence, and I think if you want to do something to help them, I think you need to get up. Pardon?
Yeah, we heard that. I mean-
Was your bid, the potential tenant that we had to move into the building, I think, got a bid for approximately $100,000 for the elevator. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Sure.
Approximately. Was it for an internally built one?
Yes. They do have all the prints available. If you could see the copy of the prints, and I don't know if those are available at the city offices or at the state level, but there is a space for the elevator already set aside in the building, the way it's been designed.
Well, we have a spot, an area where we plan on putting the elevator because it occupies the one office on the main office level that was destroyed. At one point in time, some engineer for MDOT didn't like all that old wood paneling and such and wallpaper and put nice 1960s or 70s paneling in the building, in the room. And so we've got a room there it's lost its historic fabric. Integrity. And so this is obviously the room to place the elevator. It goes down below to a room that's adjoining the boiler room. Once again, just no historic character to that particular room. So it worked perfect to use that space on the inside of the building to put the elevator. The concept we have to enter that space would be coming off the parking lot side. Now, if you can picture that beautiful concrete block bump out in the back of the building, just to the, I think it's to the west of that, to the street side, and we basically take that bump out, make it a little bigger, put a nice, probably limestone or similar facade on it, so it blends in nicely with the building. Enter there through an actual window, because the window height is such that, and the grade is such that you could take the part of the window sill out and have a beautiful walkway right in. So you'd actually walk into the room, and you would be about 3 feet above the lower level, and about 6 or 7 feet up to the office level. Real short run either way for an elevator to operate. So we've got this figured out, but if $100,000 is all that's keeping Chris from coming into the building, we should talk some more.
Well, that was just the elevator, that wasn't the bathrooms. And-
Yeah, I mean, that's not a big deal.
What an elevator costs, huh?
But so anyway, so we've, thought through the process and how to make this work.
You know, with ADA being a federal thing, it might be a good idea to contact Congressman Dave Camp's office about federal grants. No? Have you already done that?
I have not done that. I would just be amazed if there's anything available there, because there are so many different ADA buildings buildings that need ADA upgrading, and Patty works a lot in historic restoration. I've dabbled in it. Potential of finding grants out there. Good luck,
Slim.
or anything, any substance. I mean, if they're out there, I don't know where they are. I've never seen an ADA grant either.
Most grants are available through preservation, are available for nonprofit organizations.
And even then, they're pretty small grants usually. So.
But the first, just to add comment of why the project appears stalled, we've actually done a lot. I think what we have done has been a lot on the inside, and people haven't seen it as much. But the first entire year, probably a year and a half, when we would walk into a bank without seeing our project, or they would go, "We're not loaning money."
Yes.
I mean, we had bankers just say that without looking at us or our background or numbers or anything. We're not making commercial loans. So, you lost a year and a half there from when Al acquired the building.
If I could also add, after glancing through your minutes there, a couple of errors I didn't see in the minutes. That's not an asphalt roof on the building, it's a rubber membrane that was replaced, that was already there. That was, I think that was about $20,000 expense. It was actually significant masonry work that was done. That front steps entry was basically dismantled, taken apart, and put back together. And that was done by an expert in historic masonry, Cusacks, out of, I want to say Hubbardson, I'm not sure. But anyway, so it was very professionally done, because if you remember, it had some stones that were heaving on that, all has been replaced. It had leaking going on inside the building from that. That's totally sealed up. So that front entryway was a very significant piece of masonry work that was done on the building.
Are there any other comments from the public or from the commissioners on this? Okay. We'll move ahead with that at our next meeting in May and continue to work forward on that. If there's not any other comments, I'm open to a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Great.